Hey, yo, what is good, guys? Welcome back to another video. With the Fed, man, with the rate cuts getting down, we have a lot more money that can be made in the stock market. And there's just a lot more money getting pumped into the stock market and the crypto market in general. In short, you can basically borrow money for cheaper, and your savings account percentages also goes down. So that means that a lot of people will put their money into the stock market because, let's say, people trust their money more into the stock market than a savings account because they just think that they're going to make more money off of stocks because stocks are going to pump, of course, and your savings account percentage when goes down year over year, basically. And with more rate cuts, priced in and stuff like that, we're going to see the market pumping up even more. And these are the top stocks to watch. We're going to be talking about long-term plays, short-term plays, and in the short term, I personally trade option plays. So it's going to be mainly option plays for the short term, but it's also going to be like short term trades for shares as well for some stocks, but it's going to be for both your long term, short term, and honestly, man, mainly option plays, but some of these are shares, like I was saying before. But with that being said, man, we're going to get started with one that we talked about on Monday. And on Monday, or we talked about this one way before Monday. We talked about it on like the weekend and telling you guys to get in. But with that being said, man, we got in personally at $18.40, and I recommended you guys to get into it. Low key, this was a play that I told you guys to get a few months out, and I wasn't expecting it to hit like the next 2 days afterwards. And honestly, the next day after we got that play, we got to that $20 price target we were talking about. And then the next price target was like 25 and then to like that $30 level, but we haven't hit 30 yet. But we did hit like 25 to 26. But when the market did open, we can admit it. We hit maybe like $23. But even if you sold it here, you would have made at least 400% on those plays that we priced in basically. So it is pretty good. Right now we're moving pretty sideways. So right now lift is kind of more risky because we can either move to the upside even more and fill this gap to the upside, maybe to like the 27 and maybe hitting 30, but we also have room to fill to the downside too, going back down to like that $20 level. Might just maintain that $20 level, or we can get back down to like 18 to 19. So please have your patience with this one. And if you guys did get those plays that we announced, I would probably trade, take some profits. I took profits literally this day, right at market open. So I took my profits at like $22 rather than getting it at 23. But honestly, man, the play was up 400%. I'm not gonna say no to that. I was thinking about taking it for the $20 just because it happened so quick, and I was gonna see if we can get a dip downwards, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna just hold it. This was that longer term hold play. And yeah, another play that kind of been hitting low key, and this is one that I announced a few months ago, but it's not hitting like too well yet. But we're getting some good news with BBAI. Our average is like $5 with this one, and that's when I told you guys to get in. It's not really a big gainer. It's not really a flex to say like, oh, I called it out. It's only $2 in the money right now. But I think BBAI is that one that I'm low key debating on selling it, but at the same time, I feel like BBAI could be the next Palantir. I'm not saying that's going to hit like $200 within a year or something like that, but I think we could potentially see this at like $30 to like $50, like potentially. And I don't want to like sell it now at $7 and then like a few weeks or a few months later, I see it at like 50 to 100. I did the same thing with Palantir. I held Palantir at $5. I had Palantir at $5, and then like a few months later, Palantir went up to like 30 and then 50 and then 70 and then 100. And then now we're trading at like 182, which is insane. So this is one that I don't want to miss out on. And my average is at $5 right now. And I might even dollar cost average in at like 6.3. And I do recommend, if you guys are looking at this one, look for a tiny little pullback. We could potentially get back down to like that $6 to that 570 level. And I would recommend you guys to load up then. And this is just one, maybe put like $500 off to the side into this one if you guys do have a long term. And honestly, just hold it for the long term. And this one can be potentially one of those plays in like a year or two that brings your long term up. You could potentially get like 2 to 3 free deposits off of this one just with $500, depending on what your deposit is. But honestly, this one can, like, at the bare minimum, we can at least double, but I think we could triple or even quadruple. So this is one to have on your radar. Another one is Palantir that we want to talk about just because we got a deal. I think it was with the UK. We've been seeing a lot of deals coming out. I forgot what company it was, but some company did a deal with the Air Force, which was kind of insane. We see Intel. Intel is insane, but Intel is not on our list today just because I feel like we can have a strong pullback. but not really a too strong pullback, but it's just not a good time to load up. Our average is at like $19, and that's when I told you guys to get in for Intel. Intel is honestly holding up my portfolio right now. Honestly, my long term, I think it's Intel, Robinhood, and then now Apple. Apple is like one of my biggest holdings. I'm not even gonna lie, I bet it big on Apple, and it's kind of paying off now. I might sell it at 250 if we could touch that 250. But with that being said, Palantir, we do have a good deal coming out with the UK. We could potentially do one or two things. We can either fill this gap back upwards and then continue to the upside. I'm looking at 185, 187.5, and that 190, and then getting up to 200. But then if you see some, sellers come in and it's starting to look a little bit weaker, you can potentially play it down and look at that 180, because 180 is going to be a big level for this one. If you can see it break below 180, you have room to move to 178.5 and then all the way down to like 176 to 175. So I do recommend playing Palantir both ways, but please have your patience and see a clear move up or down. If you guys want, you guys can follow me on X, NextGen Wealth Tips. For it's in the description below. But I post my plays, so if I am going to be doing a play or I see a clear move on Palantir, I will call it out early and before I even buy the play. I normally call it out on X first, and then I will buy the play afterwards. So honestly, follow me on X if you guys don't want to miss out on any plays or early news. Next one, of course, is going to be Nvidia. Nvidia has been moving pretty strong, and honestly, man, Nvidia is that one that a lot of people were trying to hate on low key. Like I feel like a lot of people were hating on Nvidia overall and saying that it's gonna fall and keep on falling. With that being said, man, it didn't fall, and honestly, it is continuing to the upside, but not as strong as it normally moves, though. But with the price action of NVIDIA, one level to watch is going to be that 177.5, just because it just has been failing to break this level for a minute. And honestly, we see a lot of bounces off of that one. So if it can finally bounce above 177.5, look at 178.5, and then all the way up to like 179.5 and that 180 level, of course. But like I said before, man, the last time that we had a fat pullback like we're looking at now, we kind of seen, like a big sell off, like a big sell off, a continuation for the sell off, and kind of what we're looking at now. And then we finally rallied back up. But honestly, this rally literally was overnight. And then we came back up to that 180 level. And now we're kind of seeing not really similar, but we did have a decent sell off, but it was kind of slower. And then a kind of a little bit of a comeback. And now we're consolidating. So we can either go to the downside or to the upside. So NVIDIA is another play, just like Palantir. It can either go up or down. So this is one to have your patience with. But with that being said, I'll be calling out a play on NVIDIA. I'm mainly trading NVIDIA and Apple. And honestly, Apple's been making us a decent amount of money this week, and that's what we're going to be talking about next. So basically, one thing that I kind of forgot about on Friday was the phone coming out. So with that being said, the phone did bring it up a decent amount. I did have an overnight call option, which printed pretty well, and I sold it right at open at like 242.3, and we bought it at around like 237. So we made a decent amount of money, a hefty amount of money. This is the most that it came up like pre-market and after hours on a time frame. So that is pretty good. But with that being said, man, we did rally a decent amount, started consolidating. So with that being said, a decent thing about Apple is that we're not even at all-time highs yet, but we can touch 250 potentially next week. And that is what I'm going to be watching for. 250 break for next week. If we can potentially at least test it, that could be good because we still have $5 to move to the upside, or like $4.50, but similar. But with that being said, the deltas are pretty good with the option plays, and I'm potentially going to be seeing an upward trend to the 250 level and potentially a bounce off of that 250. You can play that 250 to the downside. $50 for stocks is a big level to break. So with that being said, I don't think it's going to break it the first time. So we're potentially just going to get a 250 and maybe bounce back down to maybe 247.5. So you could play it to 250, sell it maybe at 249, and then wait for it to touch that 250, and then seeing some selling pressure come in. You could look at that 249.5. If you could break through that, that's when you can buy your put option, and then sell it at around that 247.7 level. That is what I recommend doing, man. This play can hit. Both of these plays can potentially hit. Just for that call option, that initial call option, you want to see some upward momentum because we are still kind of testing that 245. So we got to hold above that 245, see some bullish momentum, and then we could potentially go to the upside. But then we can get a bigger sell because we got VWAP, the 20-day kind of touching it. So honestly, if we can potentially get to the downside as well, you can play to the downside maybe to 243, like 246 to 243. That's a $3 move as well. But Apple is one to have your patience with. SMCI is moving pretty well, pretty decent, honestly, pretty clean. And SMCI is one that's on my radar, but this is one that I recommend just staying tuned for the plays. But we are going up in a upward trend slowly, so you could potentially play a longer term call option. This is for your long term. SMCI is still in play. I personally have this one at $35, so not really up too much. Not really a heavy hitter, but this is one that is moving pretty decently. And then next, last but not least, is RGTI. We're getting some quantum computers. Stocks kind of doing parabolic, and RGTI has been upward trending for a minute. And honestly, you could potentially see that $30 level get broken and then potentially see 35 to 40 within the next couple of months. So this is one that you can have in your long term and a longer term hold for your option plays. But with that being said, man, smash the like button, subscribe if you guys are new, comment down below any questions you guys may have, and then follow me on X so you guys don't miss out on early news and the plays. I'll see you guys in the next one, and good luck trading next week. And tomorrow we're going to have a video on, I don't know yet. I don't know yet, but it's going to be, Sundays are going to be for learning. So we're going to try to teach you guys something. And then maybe towards the end of the day on Sunday, we'll do some supports and resistance and getting ready for the week. Peace out.